poetic, quoting epics and ancient prose. Truth be told, you're quite pathetic, Mr. Eclectic Allen Poe. Did you ever stop and give a wonder to just who you were talking to? The very expert on the foolish things that men have said to and win me over. What a poser, you think you're so interesting.
You know, to sort of change slightly the wording of Carly Simon, I bet you think this song is about me. When I was listening to it, I was thinking, does this person who wrote this, do they know me or something? Anyway, I don't know Lefe. I know that. I think I would know if I knew her. But anyway, I guess she wrote this song too. That's hardly what we're here to discuss. I don't know what we're here to discuss because it's Ask or Tell Me Anything, where people have the opportunity to call 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. Several people have. Let's talk to them. Here we go with Mike in Woodbury. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Colin. So this decision by the NFL to have Bad Bunny do the halftime show is very interesting because I'm sure they had a spirited debate about this. But ultimately, he's extremely popular. I think I read where he's like second only to Taylor Swift in terms of popularity. And, you know, I'm sure they expected the MAGA backlash, but what can they do? Nobody is going to boycott the NFL. Right. I mean, it's one thing to boycott Disney and networks, but maybe the most extreme fanatic MAGA, a handful will not watch the games or something. But I mean, it's the most it's not only the most popular sport; it's the most popular thing, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is arguably it's certainly the most popular thing that you could put on television by miles and miles. Nothing even comes close. And
Christie, yeah.
So I mean, the NFL looks at this and they think, well, we have every white American that we're ever going to get, and that's most of them. So who else can we get? And some of that might be, I mean, Bad Bunny might be a choice. I mean, he's mainly chosen because he's, as you say, incredibly popular. It's very hard the way music is these days, the way it's released and the multiple streaming platforms and stuff. It's hard to figure out who's more popular than whom else. But there's no way you could keep Bad Bunny out of the top three most popular musical artists right now. He's just that popular, and he's good, and he's charismatic, and he proved that on Saturday night, once again hosting Saturday Night Live. And at one point he said in his monologue, if you don't understand my songs, you've got 4 months to get ready. And I think it's kind of an exciting choice. But yeah, the NFL, look what they've done. They are trying to internationalize. They've already played over the course of recent years 5 games in Mexico, where they speak roughly the same language that Bad Bunny speaks. They've done 2 and are going to do a 3rd in Brazil, where they speak Portuguese. And they've done a lot of games in Europe, where they used to go just to get kickers. They wouldn't even stay. They just kidnap the kicker, fly back. So I think this is kind of an interesting thing, and I don't think MAGA is doing themselves any. I want to say one more thing, and then I'll let you talk. But which is that the other thing is the big complaint is there's like 3 complaints, but the big top complaint is he's not even going to sing in English. And this is America. Super Bowl's America. We ought to be singing in English. But the people who do that, like on social media, mostly they don't write very good or clear English. For example, there was one person on X who has a huge following. I think she's called Redheaded Libertarian. And she said the Bad Bunny came out of nowhere. But she spelled nowhere as 2 words, no and where. And I'm thinking, maybe learn English first yourself, and then you can complain about Bad Bunny. Anyway, you have the floor, Mike.
And Christy Nome saying that ICE is going to go to the Super Bowl. So I guess the idea is they're going to arrest all the illegal farm and kitchen workers who can drop $10,000 for a Super Bowl ticket. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's purely performative. And interesting. I don't think Trump has said anything. I haven't seen anything that he has said.
Well, first of all, they're having a little trouble explaining to him that it's not an actual bunny. Yeah, so once he gets that through, he thought it was like Harvey or something. There's like this 6 foot tall bunny or something. So once they get that through, once they get him to really kind of understand this, you have to show him things on television. We now know that. I mean, they're going to have to make him watch Saturday Night Live. Because he has to see things on television or he doesn't understand them. As we now know about Portland, where he was watching stuff on Fox where there were clips put in that were from the George Floyd protests. And he, I think, actually said to the governor of Oregon, well, what, am I watching things on television that aren't really happening? Which is sort of his fundamental existential question. Because if it's not on television, he doesn't know nothing about it.
Well, he may decide to threaten the NFL. I don't know what he could threaten with, but unless they replace Bad Bunny with Kid Rock.
Well, yes, I'm going to now quote myself. So, this year, last February, he became the first American president to attend a Super Bowl in person. And of course, the halftime show that time was Kendrick Lamar, and the big themes of the show were protests against racism and mass incarceration. And I said, it's kind of like they're putting on a halftime show, protesting and criticizing pancakes with syrup while Mrs. Butterworth is sitting up in the boxes watching. So he's going to be unhappy no matter what happens. And from a certain point of view, that's a good day. If he's unhappy, it's sort of a good day. All right, let's go to Terry in Stamford. We might be kind of continuing with the same ideas, but we might not. Here's Terry. Hi, Terry.
Hi, how are you?
Just fine. How are you?
I'm okay. I was wondering about the Supreme Court's seeming acceptance of the idea that Trump can do just about anything he wants under the unitary theory of the executive. And I wondered, what is the difference between a president as defined by the unitary theory of the executive and an elected autocrat or dictator? And the second part of that question is, how does it make sense that the founding fathers would go to war against England to escape from the tyranny of the king and then carefully craft a constitution with separation of powers and checks and balances, only to give the new president the powers of a king who could ignore the separation of powers in those checks and balances? I don't see how that's logical, and I'm wondering how the originalists on the Supreme Court could come to that conclusion.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack in your question, but a lot of your questions kind of answer themselves. Everything that you're bringing up is wholly accurate and an interesting way to think about things. I will say this, Ann Landers, who was, I think, on the Supreme Court, I'm not sure, said no one can take advantage of you without your cooperation. That's a little bit of what's happened here. You can only have three. You can only have a balance of power with checks and balances among three branches of government, unless you can only have it if all three branches are willing to make their own cases, are willing to assert, their own significance. And I think the biggest failure here is Congress and people like John Thune, because and this is sort of something I'm not sure people get about the current shutdown. The Democratic case about the shutdown, or their sort of the demands about the shutdown, are really two different things. One of them is the restoration of cuts to health care, particularly the Obamacare premiums. But that's sort of a conversation they want to have, is how can we restore more money for the healthcare of Americans. But the other part of it is they want some action on rescissions. And the reason goes to what you're talking about, Terry, which is that even if you can get a bipartisan, cooperatively hammered out agreement in Congress, Trump has shown a willingness to use rescissions to violate those agreements. So even if you can get Mike Johnson and John Thune to do some work on something with the Democrats and come up with something that's mutually acceptable, it is now almost routine that Trump can use rescissions to undo the work of a bipartisan Congress. And so one of the things that they wanted to do was to work with the Republicans to rescission-proof these deals, and John Thune refused to do it. You've got a Supreme Court. John Roberts all politicians to some degree or another are Macbeth. in the sense that they find themselves doing things that they never thought they would do. If that's how you read Macbeth anyway, which is how I read Macbeth, that, he didn't really start out thinking he was going to do all this stuff. He was maybe just going to try to be a good Thane of Cawdor for a while and then see what else came along. And then he winds up doing all this stuff. John Roberts, his whole idea was, I'm just going to try to be a good Supreme Court Chief Justice, kind of call balls and strikes, not let things get too political, care more about the institution than I do about any participating parties, both in the sense of parties to a lawsuit and political parties. And it's just the complete inverse of that. I mean, it's just the most politicized bunch of useful idiots that you've ever seen. It's well on its way to becoming the worst the worst Supreme Court since before the Civil War. And it's, they're not going to review any of this stuff. So yes, your concerns are valid. I wish I had a good solution. I wish I even had kind of a bad solution, but I don't.
Well, I appreciate your perspective on that.
Yeah.
And before I leave, I've just got another question, not for this program, but requesting that you address this in a future program. The National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, which I know you know about because you made an allusion to the NSPM 7 in one of your podcasts. So if you could address that at a later time, I would appreciate it, because I don't think Morning Edition or All Things Considered have taken that up.
All right. We can, the head of Lily Test and Quality Entertainment Productions is listening right now, and so she will file that away. I'm absolutely sure she will. Terry, thanks for calling. What should we do? All right. Okay. Let's talk to Chris and Mary. Chris may prompt a torrent of other calls, but if he does, he does. That'll be fine. Hi, Chris.
Good morning. How are you?
Just fine.
Actually, it's afternoon. I apologize. Question about recycling in Connecticut, more specifically recycling throughout all the groups that you see on cans and bottles. Mm-hmm. Most recently, I've tried to recycle some cans and bottles that come from smaller organizations, some independent organizations, and I've been told at various locations, we don't take them, we won't recycle them, we won't reimburse you for them, but we pay the tax for them. Why is it so convoluted, given the nature of what we have technology-wise?
Yeah, first of all, I don't know the answer to the why question. And my understanding is that under a fairly recent set of revisions, it used to be that they could say, we don't sell that, so we're not going to do it. But my understanding is that anything now that has the 10% charge on 10% charge on it, they have to take. So I have no idea why they would be turning anything like that down. I run into that once in a while. I'm kind of interested in all of this because, well, first of all, when they kicked it up to 10 cents, it actually became kind of worth your while to be interested in it. But also I'm just interested in how the whole system works. So I do often bring things back to see what happens. I don't think I've had the thing happen that you're describing, but I believe you that it's happening. So this might be kind of more of a locally bottled thing or a smaller, as you say, smaller company.
Right. So, for instance, like I've gotten stuff from like a local brewery and multiple places, whether it's a food store, a grocery store, or even some of these recycling centers won't take them, and they just say, we don't take them. And I got the answer that they have to come and get them to some degree. I'm not really sure what that means, but I was down in one major recycling area that supposedly takes everything, and even they wouldn't take.
Really? Because there are those entities that's all they do, right? Is they recycle stuff,
right?
And they won't.
And they tell me no, they won't take them. No.
This is,
but that's both in Wallingford and in Middletown.
This is worth getting like a state legislator or two interested in, because this is the system not working right. Right. Either do a carve out where the 10% deposit doesn't get charged, or 10-cent deposit. Why can't I say that right? The 10-cent deposit doesn't get charged, or reimburse. They're the only two fair strategies here. So, because right now, you, the taxpayer, the individual, the person, the average guy, you're the person left holding the bag. I'm trying to sound more like Trump or a MAGA person or something. Let's make recycling great. Let's make recycling work again. Because right now, you, a good, solid American, trying your best to do the right thing, are the one being penalized. And I won't stand for it. And my administration won't stand for it either, should I ever have one. All right, so let's do... I'm probably not going to be that intelligent with Jennifer. I mean, this presupposes that I've been intelligent with anyone else. But let's give it a try anyway. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. How are you?
Just fine.
So, I am just coming home from a demonstration I was at, and I wanted to talk about, actually it kind of piggybacks on what you were saying, how the federal government, Trump has proven that he's not going to pay attention to anything that's bipartisan. But there's stuff that we can do in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I feel like we need to do it now, that we should have a special session and look at things like protecting our justice system by making sure that ICE can't go messing around all of our state courts. That's dangerous for everybody.
Oh yeah, no. The state did issue a very, very muted policy saying, I think, that ICE cannot go into state-owned courtroom property and grab people. That's like the only no we've been prepared to lay down so far. No, I'm totally with you about this. I wrote a column about this for Hearst a few weeks ago. That ultimately we need to think small, that the federal government is going to fail us in a lot of different ways going forward, because it's just now at this point underfunded and understaffed. And a lot of the institutions that we counted on, like the CDC, have been eviscerated. Other kinds of institutions that we counted on to fund important activities, whether it's the National Science Foundation or the National Endowment for the Arts, are also defunded or close to eviscerated. We certainly see a degeneration of energy policy, something like the wind project in New London and Rhode Island that was suddenly, I mean, I know they kind of seem to be restarting it now, but they just sort of canceled it. It was 80% complete. There's a hatred at the federal level for any kind of renewable energy project. And the problem with that, in addition to the environmental impact of it, is energy is going to get more expensive. I mean, the easiest way to make power right now is to point a piece of glass at the sun. It's also the cheapest way. So, I mean, energy is going to get a lot more expensive. So I do believe at the state level, for all of those reasons and for just, entitlements and stuff that are not going to work anymore, you want to have a plan. And you want to, at the executive level, you want to look at all of your commissioners, your cabinet, and say, are you people ready to be a lot more agile? Are you people ready to tackle things that we typically don't tackle, at least not in this way? Are you, in effect, ready to lead as opposed to manage? Because we're going to need to lead on a lot of these issues right now, because the federal institutions that sit above them are now broken. So I'm 100% with you. I don't know if a special session is the right place to do it. I'd like to see Governor Lamont come out with a slate of things, a slate of ideas about how he intends to respond. My guess is that the special session is going to just only tackle, some stuff that's been kind of hanging around, like the housing bill and stuff like that. But
but it's, the other thing, we have a $2 billion surplus?
No, we have I believe a $4 billion rainy day fund.
Yeah. Well, Medicaid is being threatened.
Yeah. Well, that's a really interesting question. We can't use this money for that unless it gets appointed to the fund. Right? Yeah. No, Ned would say, I believe, I will speak for Ned at this moment. Ned would say, yes, that's why I'm not spending things right now, because in fact, what if we have to make up for a Medicaid deficit and be able to extend people who are on Medicaid and in the middle of all these work requirements that are going to be really, really hard to administer? That's why I'm keeping this money, because we might need it. That's why it's called a rainy day fund. And I think, what you're saying is...
I think it's raining.
Yes, well, it is raining. It's absolutely raining. And it's not raining men
raining.
either. It's just raining a much less appealing substance. And yes, so I think now is the time to go to battle stations and say, okay, here are 5 to 7 incredibly endangered activities of government, which we might have to pick up the slack for when the federal government, continues to kind of pay out the rope and stop doing what was formerly its job. So what are we going to do? How are we going to deal with it? How much is it going to cost? Who are we going to help? Who aren't we going to be able to help? I mean, I hope those conversations are being had in a really kind of forceful way, both in the executive offices with Governor Lamont and his cabinet, and also with legislative leadership. Yeah, I'm pretty sure legislative leadership is having some of those conversations. But
I hope so.
It's kind of why I hope
all this ICE stuff is
it's terrifying.
I mean, we're from a part of the country where most of us can proudly spout off, "Oh, I'm American. Oh, my grandmother was Irish," and yet we forget that. Okay, so your immigrant relatives got here a little earlier than the ones that are coming now, and it's just dumb luck that you're okay.
Yeah,
and we need to stand up for the people who are coming now.
Yep.
Under the same circumstances.
What we try to tell people is just because you were born on second base, that doesn't mean you hit a double. All right, we're going to take a little break right here. We're going to come back. We've got Eric and Chris are already on the line. You could be on the line, too, if you were to call 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR.
Overthinking. 1, 2, 3.
I spend a lot of time thinking about doing things instead of doing them. I spend a lot of time thinking about saying things instead of saying them. Out loud, out loud, out loud. I spend a lot of time ruminating, reminiscing about the past, fantasizing about the future, thinking about anything but now, thinking about anything but now.
All right, and if that describes you, you need to get into counseling. Actually, it describes everybody. All right, it's Ask or Tell Me Anything. That means you call 888-720-9677 or 888-720-WNPR, and you bring up a thing. You can bring up a thing, and we would talk about that thing. All right, so we have a choice right now between midges, swarms of midges, and the shutdown. I think we're going to go midges first because Eric has been waiting a long time. And also, I have a question about midges. Eric, you have the floor.
Hey, Colin.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm calling because I've been seeing these huge swarms of tiny flies, which I presume are midges. They don't bite, and they're somewhat mosquito-like in appearance, but they're not mosquitoes.
And they're not gnats. They're not gnats.
Yeah, I don't think they're gnats.
I don't really know the difference between a midge and a gnat.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. Well, last night I was actually sorting out some old documents to shred, and there were a couple of gnats, which I believe are gnats. They're kind of tiny black flies, and one almost flew up my nose. But anyway, these swarms can best be seen by looking either slightly to either side of the sun. So you're not looking directly at the sun, but slightly to either side, because in order to see them, the sunlight has to strike them at just the right angle to illuminate them.
Is there a name for these? I mean, you know how there's like a murmuration of starlings?
Well, these are mating swarms.
And they're mating swarms of midges? Mating swarms of midges?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a book titled A Guide to Observing Insect Lives by Donald Stokes, which describes what is known about swarming behavior in midges. And
I bet he knows the difference between a midge and a gnat.
Yeah. Well, I might check with the Connecticut. Maybe I'll send a net.
Yes, I think it's. We have to get reach the Connecticut Agricultural Station immediately and find out about this.
Yeah. Well,
and what happens if one of them flies up your nose? You could have had horrible brain damage. I was told. Now, I feel like you're maybe not the midge expert that I need right now, but you're the only one I have. So, so I remember as a young person, particularly I think if you're playing like outfield in baseball or softball, but I even remember it kind of coming up in soccer once in a while too, that, you have these midges and they're flying around, or maybe they're gnats, maybe they're midges, who knows what they are. They could be very small drones. But there was this idea that they fly to the highest place, so you put your hand way up over your head. Mm-hmm. Particularly if you're playing outfield, you do that, because what else do you have to do anyway? It's very boring out there. And so the midges, and I think they would kind of do that, certain midges or gnats.
Yeah, well, the Stokes Guide does mention they're called markers. They're like certain structures. And sometimes he even mentions that sometimes they'll even be flying, use the tops of our heads as a marker.
But, so you want to, yes. So this is true then, that you want to create a different marker for them. You want their hand to be the marker you want to be, not the marker the midges want you to be. That would be my advice.
Well, anyway, also, if you're at the right place, like close to a lake, at a field close to a lake, you often see large dragonflies darting around and actually darting through these swarms of tiny flies, evidently feeding on them.
Yeah.
They're kind of like the dragonflies are kind of like these sharks.
Right. You know what they say? They say this is like shooting midges in a barrel. That's their expression for it among the dragonfly community, which I happen to have ties to. All right, that was a great call from Eric. It's exactly the kind of thing that we want to talk about. But we'll talk about anything. And I'm telling you, I'm about to take Chris's call, Chris from Avon. And when I get through talking to Chris, I won't have anybody to talk to. So you can call 888-720-9677 with some level of confidence that your call will go through and get on the air. Plus, you get to talk to Robin Doyen Aiken, which is a pleasure in its own right. 888-720-WNPR. I also have quite an interesting story about a bear to tell, so if you don't call up, everything will be fine. At least I think it's quite an interesting story. Here is Chris from Avon. Hi, Chris.
Well, I'll just get right down to it.
Get right down to it. Unless there are any midges in your vicinity, I would get clear of the midges and then speak. Okay.
Well, I have swallowed a few midges in my day.
You have?
It's very annoying.
Yeah.
I have. If you go out hiking, you're going to swallow some sort of fly.
But it didn't hurt you none. You sound fine.
Well, you get a little choked up.
Yes.
If you know what I'm saying. It's in terms of the shutdown, and a lot of people are saying this, the Democrats are not messaging it right. And it shouldn't be about a little small ball issue about health care. It should be the government has been destroyed, and we're going to stop the train for a week so people can think about what's been done, and don't try to get a deal, because then you're just like cap in hand to the man, and he doesn't want to do a deal. But it would just be, we're shutting this down because people need to look at what has been done, and then we'll start it back up again and get busy with trying to get elected in the midterms.
I would respectfully disagree.
That's why
I would respectfully disagree.
Okay.
I would just say this. I mean, one of the things that a shutdown does, it does inflict pain on all kinds of people in all kinds of ways, and if you're going to inflict pain on voters, you better have a pretty good reason why. And let's have a think about how bad the government has gotten under Trump isn't, I think, a workable reason. I mean, I think intellectually it is. I get what you're saying and I agree with it, but I don't think it's something you can say to people, particularly people going without something they either want or need, because you've let the government get shut down. So I think you have to have. I agree that the Democrats are terrible with messaging. It took them until just a few days ago for people to understand what it was that they were talking about, because they didn't pounce on it. They didn't speak with one voice, and they didn't speak in a way that was understandable. And meanwhile, you've got Caroline Levitt going up there going, they're just doing this so they can get health care for illegal aliens. That's what they want. That's what they're bargaining for. You've got to get out ahead of that, because even though it's a complete lie, anybody who believes it's true is going to be very angry. So I think getting the message out. No, I think the message is, this is about your health care, the health care of average working Americans, and the money and resources that used to exist for that health care are essentially being transferred to the wealthiest Americans. This is about a transfer of resources and money from average people for their health care to wealthy Americans who don't need that money. I think that's the message, and I don't think you can make it more complicated than that. But since neither one of us has any influence, over Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer, it doesn't really matter what either one of us thinks. But thank you for your call. I think it was a very interesting thing to talk about. And, so we've got Willie from beautiful cow-infested Northford, and with something that we've actually done an entire show about in the past, but we would like to talk more about it. So, Willie, you have the floor.
Excellent. Moo, Colin.
Yeah, moo.
So yes, I'm a first-time caller. And I was just listing things I was grateful for the other day. And I said, Colin McEnroe.
Oh.
And it occurred to me for the very first time, Colin and call in. So I had to call up and ask, do you think that your name is a case of what Robin just informed me is called nominative determination?
Yeah, nominative determinism, yeah. So it's like, for example, if you had a dentist named Dr. Fillmore, that would be nominative determinism. Or one of the things that got us started on nominative determinism is that I think we were doing a show about birds and bird feeders, and we booked this guy who's an ornithologist, and he's especially a consultant about bird feeders to one of the big companies that makes them. And his name is David Bird, and he's become an ornithologist. And you just sort of think, well, I mean, how much choice did he really give himself? So yes, nominative determinism. I don't think it's Colin. First of all, since I was in about fifth grade, people go the other route and say it's like colon. So maybe I should be doing colonoscopies or something. So given the choice, I'll take Colin over colon. But no, I don't believe that. But on the other hand, it would be okay with me if other people did believe it. That's the best I can do.
Awesome.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks for your call, and thanks for thinking that I'm a thing to be grateful for. I will try to be worthy of that kind of trust. All right. So, this is good. I think this might be good here. We have a different Willie. Willie the Different is his name. His sort of Renaissance fair name. Willie the Different. So, hi, Willie. You're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. I'm thinking now, the town of Washington, Connecticut recently, this summer, put up speed monitoring on the road, okay, with a camera, and it's set up by a separate company. Now, the speed limit was 30, and if you went over 40, evidently, they would send you a ticket, which was $50.
Mm-hmm.
They made $300,000 this summer. Okay. Now the company that sets it up gets a portion, but the traffic does slow down.
Yeah.
Now, to carry that thought further, we do have this technology now, so that if I ran the zoo, I would probably put quite a few cars on the major highways. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And they could monitor the people's speed, take a picture of it, and send them a ticket.
This is coming. I mean, it's coming. West Hartford, Connecticut is already installing a lot more cameras. I don't know if they have speed.
But I mean, they could have a presence on the road with a marked car, and it has the camera in it and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be overhead. They can just drive along, okay? And also, with the presence on the road like that, they can send people the ticket, okay? And they're not going to go to court because they'll say, well, they just want to see him on the court. You know what I mean? They want to just see the picture of him on the court. So
all right. I'm going to beg to differ with you, Willie. So, I mean, because I think we're failing to identify the problem. The problem, partly anyway, is cutbacks in staffing with local and state police, especially state police. They're having trouble hiring enough bodies, and there's not enough money also. And so what's happening is you don't have troopers. I was on Route 9, the significant other and I were on Route 9 on Saturday night, and two cars, which either one of them was chasing the other, possibly for the purpose of like killing the person in that lead car, or they were racing or something. But they were well over 100 miles an hour. And the truth is, there's probably not a state cop on Route 9 because there aren't enough state cops, and there aren't probably enough local patrol cops also as well. I mean, you could do this with radar and stuff like that if you get the cop there. The question is, what do you do if you don't have the cops there? And I think that's where these cameras and speed monitors kick in. And I hate to say it because it is a little bit of Big Brother. You know, it doesn't feel entirely great. But on the other hand, it doesn't feel entirely great to watch somebody go 130 miles an hour down a highway, at nighttime and have nobody there to do anything about it. So that's where I fall.
Yeah, but if you have a presence for one, number two, it's got some teeth in it because it's recorded. Even if these guys are going fast and so on and so forth, if you get their plate or something, there's an old saying by a trooper I knew. He said, you cannot get ahead of the radio. And it also identifies, they can go farther down the road and find out where the car came from.
Yeah.
So you don't want the troopers out on the highway per se like that, but you can catch them you can catch the owner of the car. And the owner says, who was driving my car 100 miles an hour? I won't let him again.
Yeah.
There's different ways that would have.
There are different ways, yeah. But I still think that if this is a solution to anything, it's a solution to not having enough cops. All right, so we're going to go in just a second. We're not going quite yet. Don't panic. We're going to go to a break. But I wanted to tell a story from today mostly. But it actually goes back a little bit in time. So where I live, we do not have a garage. We have no garage, which is not something I feel really good about, but we just don't have one. And we've never had one. We've been there a very long time. Now, one of the downsides to not having a garage is where do you put your garbage cans? Because there's no. No, I can't figure it out. I can't turn it into an aphorism. Never mind. Anyway, we don't have a place to put our garbage cans. So we finally, and the problem with that, of course, is the bears come and they take all your stuff and they throw it all over the lawn. And the stuff that they're taking is garbage, stuff that you were basically through dealing with, right? When you put garbage in your garbage can, you don't say, I hope I get one more chance to see this again and maybe even handle it. I'm going to feel really bad if I don't get to touch any of this stuff that I just put in the garbage can ever again, and the garbage people just take it away. So the bears solve that problem for you. They throw it all over your lawn, and you're always kind of looking at it. I wonder what they took because they left this cantaloupe here. Anyway, so we got tired of that. I got tired of it as the person who has to go out and deal with it, and so we hired somebody. Let's say his name is Leonardo. Leonardo came and he built a shed just for our garbage cans. It's a very nice shed, too. It's an excellent shed. So now, and this happened, the work on the Leonardo garbage can shed finished, 10 days ago, let's say. 10 days ago, suddenly we were in a whole new terrain where bears couldn't get our garbage. So today, this morning, was garbage can pickup day. So you have to put your garbage cans out. You see where this is going now, right? So I happen to get up really early because my dog has an upset stomach. So at 6 a.m, I go out with the dog, and the garbage cans are fine. We go back inside, and then I hear him looking out the window and barking. And it turns out a bear has come and tipped over our garbage cans and thrown stuff all over the street. And the garbage truck, you can hear the garbage trucks in the neighborhood. I mean, the bear is beating the garbage truck by 20 minutes tops. And so I ran back out there and I stuffed all the stuff back in the garbage can. And I could see the truck coming, too. It was like just 4 houses up, the truck was already there. So it was a race against time. It was pretty pulse pounding and spellbinding. And so I got the garbage back in the can and the can upright, and they came and took it. The story has a happy ending. But I really feel like this is the bear saying, you know what? You know what I think of your shed? Up yours, all right? Up yours. That's what I think of your shed. You know, I'm just going to wait until the can's out of the shed. You just made me mad. That's the only thing you did with your fancy shed. All right, that's all. I had to get that off my chest. Let's take a break and we'll come back. You know, there's a tambourine right here, but I can't reach it. I think the tambourine should be able to reach it in the event of a tambourine-related emergency. I think the tambourine is wrongly positioned. All right, so it's time to say some thank yous. We'll start with the man on the board. It's the Jedi Master. It's Obi-Wan. It's Gina Amatruda. And then running the television part of things, the YouTube part of things, where all 45 people who are watching, is the maestro, Dylan Reyes, and Lily Tyson Quality Entertainment Productions is the producer of this show. Robin Doyen-Aiken is on the phones right now. And I think that's everybody except our intern V, who is here, and who, what I do, you might wonder what sort of role I play with our interns. And so it's mainly I just ask them on every given day that I see them. I ask them if they are more depressed than they were the last time I saw them. So that's my role. And it turns out they are more depressed usually. All right, so it's time to take some calls. I got a couple of things I got to tell you about, too. We're going to do all of that. Our number is 888-720-9677. We're running a little short on time, but we can do things. 888-720-WNPR. All right, here's Jeff in Southington. Hi, Jeff.
Yeah, hi, Colin. Hey, so I'm a political independent, and I agree with you probably 90% of the time. I came in a little bit late, but you were talking about, I believe, either the issues of the government shutdown, and you're talking about like a great wealth transfer from, I guess, the middle class to the rich to pay for their tax cuts. Mm-hmm. Did I get that right? Or did I miss something?
That's essentially right, yeah.
Okay. Are you talking about like the extension of the Obamacare subsidies or the Medicaid cuts that are about to happen?
Right, and you're right. I may have been wrong to conflate those two things. But what I was saying, first of all, I was saying this is the rhetoric that the Democratic Party has to use if they want to win this shutdown. They have to talk about it in terms of a set of fiscal policies that favor the rich over the middle class, sometimes at the expense of the health care of the middle class. And you're right, the Obama subsidies for premiums are different from what's going to be happening to Medicaid. To me, it's all of a piece in the sense that it reflects an overall attitude, which is you people go solve this problem for yourselves. We have other priorities.
Okay, so I just think that the Democrats might not want to use that language of a wealth transfer from the middle class to the rich to pay for the tax cuts, because if you start from scratch and you give people health care coverage, which I think we should have for everyone, you're taking wealth from the rich to pay for those pay for those healthcare that healthcare coverage. So it's not really a wealth transfer back if you reverse it. If you take something away that's been given to something, you're not really transferring wealth back. You're if you look at it as you're starting from scratch.
Yeah,
right?
I see what you're saying. Although a lot of it depends. Yeah. I mean, we aren't really starting from scratch. In other words, money gets moved around in different ways all the time. You could just as easily be cannibalizing our incredibly expensive Defense Department to pay for some of the health care for regular non-military citizens. I mean, there's a lot of places you can get money. I think, but you're right. Probably the more correct rhetoric would say this is a system that favors the interests of the very wealthy over the interest of average people, particularly to the detriment of their health care. And I would avoid the word transfer because of your very good advice. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. All right. This is not a good idea, but I think we should put it on the air anyway. This is Matthew. Hi, Matthew.
Hey.
You're on the air. State your piece.
Okay. I am not going to talk about politics and stuff. Actually, it's a pleasure to talk with you. And for years, I have thought that when you're doing a fundraiser for NPR, I thought if you, Colin, would raffle off an evening with you and maybe 10 people could enjoy dinner and listen to you just be eloquent and clever, it would just, I'd spend plenty to do it. So that's my idea.
So there's only two things wrong with your idea. One of them is I would not want to do it because I'm socially impaired, and the other thing is the people would not have a good time. Those are only two things wrong with this idea. But I get what you're saying, and I have said for a while here at this company that even not even for big donations, but for membership, people should have more chances to interact with all of us, including some of the people behind the scenes and stuff like that. Because I think it's fun for people to get to know the other people. But about me, I would say this. I thought we did a live show with Patti Smith quite a few years ago. And at the end was a packed house, a really large venue too, because people who like Patti Smith will drive distances to see her. And so this woman stood up to ask a question, and her question was, "Would you be my friend?" And Patti Smith said, "Actually, you're getting the best version of me right now. Being my friend would not be a better version of me. You're actually getting the best that I have to give anybody with our current relationship, with me being on stage and you being in the audience." And I think almost anybody involved with this show would tell you, including, Robin, because she never says mean things, but most people involved with this show and involved with dealing with me would say, you're probably getting the best Colin McEnroe that you're going to get. Spending some time sitting around a table with him would not actually enhance your enjoyment and experience. But Matthew, I'm flattered that you think otherwise.
I can't let the moment pass without just sharing with you. You're a treasure, and I appreciate you.
Well, I do accept the compliment, Connecticut treasure, but only ironically. All right, that's it. That's a wonderful note to end on. So thank you very much for listening. Gene, you can bring up the closing music, and we'll say goodbye.
Boom, 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 boom. Like a poem I'm meant to write. And the leaves that are green, they all just turn to brown. And they wither with the wind, and they crumble in our hands. Hello, 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 hello. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. That's all there is. And the leaves that are green turn brown.